I'm Natalie Pinkham and I'm delighted to be at Silverstone today with Aston Martin Aramco Cognizant Formula One team in celebration of International Women's Day. We've got an esteemed panel made up of female members of staff, and we've got an audience which includes the fans. And we are going to take a look at what the team is doing to empower women and the steps that are still to be made. Can't wait to get stuck in.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to firstly welcome everyone to the event. I've got a very brief job, I think, and role today, but primarily it's to introduce our MC for the day, Natalie Pinkham, who I'm sure many of you will know from Sky Sport F1.
Hello. Hi. Thanks, Martin. Can I have a round of applause, please? Because isn't it great to have Martin back in Formula One? Yes. It's great to be here. And I tell you what, such a privilege to be involved in something so important to Aston Martin Aramco Cognizant Formula One team, but also to myself, which is the empowerment of women, proving that Formula One is a party to which we're all invited. And I know it really matters to you, Martin, and to the team. Just tell us why it does so much and what today is all about.
I joined Formula One in the 1980s, that long ago. And again, to be very open about it, Formula One was white, it was male. Since then, I hope, and I do believe, that we've made many small steps in the right direction. But again, I think we've got to be very frank and open. If you look at Formula One today, Formula One teams, we are not representative of society. If you look at the gender mix, which is obviously relevant today, but if you look at the ethnicity ratios, you look at other minorities, socio-economic balance in our team, we don't represent society. And I think that means that we're missing many opportunities to have great talent and build the strongest possible team. We're just excluding people from teams. So, it's clear that it's not only right that we do something about that, it's fundamentally right to do something about it, but actually in doing so we can make a much stronger team. We can bring much more fresher, different talent into our team and be better and stronger. So it's actually absolutely essential that we do it. So certainly today, and it's not on my card, but I can pledge my support and support of Aston Martin Formula One to doing something about this, doing more about this. And obviously in so doing, I think it's right that I invite certainly members of our team and certainly the women that work in our team to come and call us out, call me out when we're not doing enough in the future. So that's why it's important, I think. It's not the brief I had on my card, but hopefully I didn't go too far off-piste.
No, I think it's important to speak from the heart, which you clearly do, and it matters that we celebrate the achievements of women across motorsport, but also within the team. So today is all about shining a spotlight on those women, and I love this mantra, we come together. I mean, that's great, because it's all about collaboration. We work better together. It's not about sort of singling women versus men. It's about pulling together and getting, as you say, the best results. I'm going to start with you, Eleanor. Just go along the line and just give us a bit of an insight into what you do.
Okay, so as an aerodynamicist, I actively contribute to car development throughout the year, using both CFD and wind tunnel techniques to do so. I got this job in 2019 after doing an undergraduate at Queen Mary University. I didn't think that made me stand out enough, so I went on to do a PhD at Loughborough University in vehicle aerodynamics with Jaguar Land Rover.
And why that route?
I think knowing how highly competitive the industry is, I thought I got a 2-1 in my MEng degree, and I felt like I needed something more. And I enjoyed learning and studying and expanding my knowledge base, so that's why I chose to do a PhD.
Brianna, tell us a bit about your role.
Yeah, so I'm HR business partner to our technical function. So that's about 200 men and a handful of women that sit in our design office. And I'm also head of our DE&I, and we created our internal D&I team back in 2020.
And how have you felt your journey's gone in terms of having people to reach out to and to be your ally? Has it been a problem being in the minority?
I think it certainly has its challenges. I think for me, a positive is that we're able to start from scratch with D&I. We started a team of really passionate people. We all talked about what we saw as the challenges and how we want to overcome them. So we had a really good opportunity to make those strides and make some really impactful changes. So that was really nice to start from, although acknowledging where we'd come from. I do certainly, I'm aware that I'm a woman in a minority, whether it comes from meetings that I'm in or email chains. I'm very aware that I'm a woman. And it does have its challenges, but we try and look at the positives and the improvements that we can make and make sure we're having that impactful communication. And as a D&I team, we are making some really great steps.
So what kind of examples have you got about that awareness? You know, are there specific things that happen that sort of flag it up? Were there things you can take in your stride? How does it feel?
Yeah, there are small biases that you see, and it could be small things from email chains that start with, dear gents. It could be the banter that you hear around the workplace and sometimes find yourself sort of within, just out of habit. It's just small comments here and there. And usually it's not something that anyone's aware that they're doing, which is why it's so important for us to raise awareness of it and have those conversations. We're not trying to point the finger or pass blame, but just to say, hey, this is what you've said and it's how you made me feel. So I think that's really important. That's
really interesting, actually, because I think we all go through life, don't we, wanting to be the best versions of ourselves and be part of progress, but actually sometimes we're always going to trip up. And it's about creating a safe space to do that. So it's okay to make mistakes as long as the intention is a good one. Charlie, great to see you again. Now, Charlie's story is incredible. I will let her give you a little snapshot of it. Go for it.
Well, I guess I've had quite an unconventional route into the career of being a racing driver. And after 15 years, I started at grassroots level with no karting or anything like that and no family history, and really progressed from that point to where I am now, where I'm racing as a professional driver and working, using my platform to try and create more LGBTQ plus visibility in the industry. I had to transition midway through my career, which was an incredibly scary process. And I never saw anyone like me in motorsport. So it's been a bit of a leap of faith at times. But yeah, I'm proud to be doing what I'm doing and trying to make a difference.
We're very proud of you. And tell us about your entry into the Guinness Book of Records.
Well, my ambition has always been to try and race the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which would, Guinness confirmed that would be a world record to achieve something that would be such a culturally significant moment in motorsport history. So fingers crossed I can make it happen one day.
You've got a tremendous amount of support on this journey, and I think what you've done is been able to sort of galvanise that support and leverage it, because there's so many people that are sort of in your corner pushing for you to be the first transgender racer at Le Mans. And I know, for one, because we've done a podcast together, I could talk to you for hours about this because it is fascinating. But you do have this unique perspective of being in motorsport as a man and then a woman. You could probably tell us for hours what that experience has been like, but what's the sort of snapshot of it? Have you personally witnessed the bias?
I think so. It's a very unique perspective to have experienced. And as you say, to have seen what that was like coming into motorsport as a guy at a point when I didn't really know much about the industry. And people always felt welcoming and happy to help. I think motorsport, we'd all agree, is like a huge extended family. But nonetheless, to turn that on its head completely midway through my career and see things from the other side of the fence is an experience that I think a lot of people would probably benefit from having that, because undoubtedly, there are differences.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll come into talking that in a bit.
Definitely.
As well. Yeah.
And you've put that experience to great use about educating others. Martin alluded to it earlier. It's come a long way. We've still got a long way to go. And I want to get your thoughts on that. And perception, I think you'll agree, is everything. It's about creating relatable role models. You ladies are exactly that. Did you have anyone to look up to when you were growing up and studying that you wanted to emulate?
No.
So what inspired you to?
Well, ever since I was 13, I just wanted to work in F1 as an aerodynamicist.
But that's incredible, isn't it? That's really amazing.
Each day I kept thinking, okay, tomorrow is one step closer to me reaching that goal. I think that really is what helped get me through university, helped me definitely get through the PhD, thinking I was just one step closer. So I don't know, I think I'm that type of person where I work well under pressure. I'm pretty driven and quite career focused.
I mean, your family and friends and you must be incredibly proud of yourself for achieving that.
In high school, I did physics, biology and maths. And I think in physics at A level is quite interesting, as I was one of 2 girls, with the other girl going off to do architecture, which isn't, I can relate to her, but not in the same way as I would have liked to have if she was doing a physics subject later on. And but actually, coming to university, I overheard one of my classmates the other week going, "Isn't it weird that there's so many women in this class?" And he was a lad, and it's like, well, it's worked. I'm part of the Social Mobility Foundation, and I think it's just proof that actually it works, because I'm getting these comments, and it's about 50-50 now in my physics class, which I think is absolutely great.
So internally, we have a very strong, very visible affinity group called Women Empowered, and that's an opportunity for the women in the business to mentor each other, mentor younger people coming through. We have a lot of training, and that's tailored to different roles within the organisation. We've got a strand on talking about bias. We've got a strand on bias, and part of sort of eliminating bias is understanding and being self-aware. We also train our leaders, our managers in how to have conversations and to be honest and open and ask questions. And somebody just asked me about what does it mean to be neurodiverse, and having those conversations. What does it feel like to be a woman in the organisation is really important. And we train our managers in doing that. Externally, we have a really strong outreach function that work with lots of different groups in the community. We work with STEM, and we work with schools in underprivileged areas as well. We have strands that are particularly tailored towards young girls as well, and that's sort of introducing them to the world of tech, but in a different way, using sports, using here, we've been here to do one here, using this as a vehicle to say, look, it's actually quite exciting, it's quite sexy, it's not really dull and boring, and you can be involved in that. We work with refugee groups. We have just got a project on a hackathon, and the problem, which is really, really cool, is to look at sustainability in period products and how we can use tech to solve that problem, which is fantastic. And having a project like that actually resonates with a lot of people. Women can relate to it and say, this is something I feel like I've got some purpose, that I'm doing something that means a lot to me.
Now, I want to understand a bit more about gender-neutral language, Hilary, and why it's important. Because we don't want to get bogged down in semantics. I know that there'll be many people that feel that it's quite exhausting, like emotionally, because you want to do the right thing, but you need to pick the right words. Give us an easy guide.
So I think this is something that I've been championing within Aston Martin Lagonda, and I feel quite strongly about, particularly because I'm in the engineering team. And as I said, I'm one of the only girls. We're doing a big expansion within our engineering team with our new management, and we're doing a lot of restructuring of teams and looking at bringing people in. And there's a lot of discussions that I'm in where it's like, he will be doing that, or he will be doing that. And I'm trying to encourage people to say, okay, well, that engineer, or that head, or they, or that, the team will be doing this, because we don't know who those people are. We're going out into the market. We're trying to find the best. Just because the last person you worked with was a man doesn't mean the next person is. And it's kind of just trying to be able to gently point it out at the appropriate moment. And I think that's the challenge of you're not trying to tell people off. You're not trying to stop the conversation, because it's really important. We need to expand the team, and we need to get people in to make the products that we want to make. But kind of just encouraging that mindset of they need to be the best people, they need to be the experienced people. It doesn't matter what background in terms of gender or anything else those people are.
And to counter that, it's quite interesting because a lot of people, I think, agree that it is about choosing the best, and not this sort of positive discrimination can be quite a tricky territory, can't it? But unless there is a pool of female talent out there, it's likely that the man will be the best in terms of experience or talent. So how do we sort of shift that? Again, it's about perception. Again, it's about women having other women to emulate and to nurture talent so that the female talent becomes the best.
Yeah, I think it's tricky, and I think it's a journey, and I think it's also kind of the support. And I think I mentioned earlier that when I went into engineering, I thought it was normal, maybe other people didn't, and I was in a very lucky position where I got told, do what you want to do. And I think that's the message that we have to kind of give to each other and put people forward and champion them within the industry, whether that's an engineering position or not. And that's something in terms of trying to create that pipeline. When I go into schools and when I talk to them, I try to be not just the female engineer. I try to be the person that works in the automotive industry, because I couldn't get a car out the door without everyone else. Like I can engineer a widget, I can organise other people to engineer widgets, but if I don't have someone that goes, this is what the customer wants, this is what in 2025 people will buy, which is more of our marketing and brand positioning team, I could be creating a V12 naturally aspirated Aston Martin forever, and are people going to be interested in it? So it's not just the engineering field. I think it's the industry, both in motorsport and within automotive. And then when we have that perception, then I think that's where you kind of don't get into it's just the best individual, it's the best for the team and the outcome.
So what advice would you give, Kathy, to people that to young girls coming through that, because I don't feel that men want to make those mistakes, because they're our mates, we coexist very well, since the dawn of time. Something's worked, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what advice would you give both men and women? Because I've got a young boy and a girl. I want my daughter to grow up in a world where she feels she has just the same opportunities as her brother, but I don't want my brother equally to feel undermined in this process. I want him to join Willow in their journey together.
So I've got 2 girls and a boy. My daughters are both sort of workplace age. My son's still at school. The advice that I have given them and give other young women is get yourself a mentor. There's some quite famous research that's doing rounds at the moment. And that's job descriptions. You've got your essential criteria. You've got your desirable criteria. Men will look at that and they'll think, I've got 50% of that, I'll make an application. Women will look at that and think, I've got 50% of that, I'm not good enough, I won't make that application. We are probably conditioned to look at things in a completely different way. And so by having a mentor, you have that support, you can talk these things through. And that might be a male mentor, it might be a female mentor, as long as that person is supporting you to have that confidence and to believe in yourself. And I think from a men's perspective, I think it is very much to learn to look at yourself. We should all look at ourselves, right, and say, do I have some bias? I'm a middle-aged white woman, I might say.
No, you're not middle-aged. Come on, you're still young and gorgeous.
Yes.
But actually, you shouldn't even worry about saying you're middle-aged, because you're middle-aged and gorgeous, you are, but I don't think you are.
Equally, that's okay. It's okay that I'm middle-aged,
Exactly.
and that's absolutely fine.
Exactly.
With that comes wisdom and experience, hopefully.
Yeah.
But it's about saying, are there things that I can learn? At this stage of my career, there are still undoubtedly bits of bias that I have, and the only way that we can really change things is to turn the mirror on ourselves and say, what can I do differently? How do I perceive that situation? How did I handle that situation? And that's where allyship comes in, and that's a really important part of supporting women in progressing their careers, in working their way through life, and for my generation now to lay the groundwork and to be vocal and to stand up and be counted and say, I mentioned earlier I went into the workplace in the 80s. I can't believe we're still having these conversations now in 2022. It's wearing, we need to be really visible, really present, and do something about this.
But do you think that something that we will never overcome is the fact that when a man and a woman are both sort of reaching their potential, hitting, the purple patch, if you like, in terms of their career, a woman then has to make the decision where she breaks away to have children? Men never have to. They continue that trajectory. And then we have to try and reinvent ourselves to come back into the workplace. That is really intimidating, isn't it, to do? And I think one of the biggest things that I'm grateful for is Sky giving me the support to do just that. But if you don't have, and clearly Aston Martin are just incredibly supportive in this space, which is, fills me with great pride and joy, but it's not the same everywhere. And how on earth do we sort of counter that? Because, we either want to be a working mum or a mum, or we don't have children. I mean, that's a big decision to make, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, having had 3 children who are thankfully a little bit older now, so I'm not in that chaos of very young children. I think it is it's a struggle. That's the only way to describe it. And it's a struggle because you are incredibly busy and carrying what is essentially an additional full-time job. And also, I think there is that perception. And sometimes that's probably about you and how you have perceived it. But also it's real as well. There is that sort of, obviously your confidence, but also how you are perceived by your colleagues in the workplace about, will you be able to balance it all, to juggle it, or will you still be as effective being a parent as you were beforehand?
And do you think doubt is sewn into your mind by
definitely.
yourself?
Definitely, and of course we've witnessed it as well. We've all seen it. We all probably sit and have conversations with our friends and colleagues about how that's affected us. So we know these stories, but that's where people like me in human resources can come in and to champion and initiate support.
What other traits and skills do you feel you need as a woman in your role, Eleanor?
Well, I think the main one for me is confidence or self-confidence. That's been the real key. And I think growing that, I really developed it throughout my PhD, really, is to, once you have that bank of knowledge, then you can go forth and be a bit more confident. I think in this line of work, you have to be able to voice your opinions, justify your answers, defend your work, and being able to do that with confidence, obviously not straying into arrogance at any point, but being able to do that confidently is the key.
And do you think you have to do that more as a woman, or do you think men do as well?
I think men do as well. I think
perhaps I should ask the gentleman in the room that question,
but I think possibly more so as a woman. Sometimes I feel like I overcompensate, and maybe that's something that men don't even think about. But I do worry, have I sounded a particular way by over-justifying my answer, or I end up being really, or having a big attention to detail because I really want to be able to back myself in case anyone were to question my decisions. And I think possibly women do that more.
Brie, you're nodding. Is that, well, you all are. Yeah, is that something that you can relate to?
Yeah, I completely agree. I'd have to say before motorsport, perhaps I didn't have the skill set that I have now in terms of being a little bit more assertive and a little bit more confident, and having to prove myself a little bit more is not something that came naturally to me and perhaps does now. But I'd like to think that we're supporting a culture that's a bit more supportive and inclusive, and we're looking at psychological safety and we're looking at no blame, because we want to really raise those voices and encourage those voices without having to have someone shape their personality a little bit differently and change some of those natural skill sets that they've got. Because although I now take it as a positive, I have much more confidence and much more assertion, I wouldn't expect anyone to come to the business with those skills already if it doesn't come naturally to them. So we want to make sure we're producing those environments and those really safe spaces where people can speak up and they're encouraged to speak up, and they don't have to sort of perhaps be like Ellie and I and be a little bit more confident and prove our worth a little bit more.
Yes?
So I'm currently studying engineering at university, and a lot of my male course mates have kind of said, we're aware and we want to help, but we don't know how. So I was wondering if any of you have any suggestions of what they can do to support us.
Mentoring, I think it's been mentioned quite a few times, but I feel like giving back is one of the best ways that we can improve the future of engineering or any type of industry. And so I think it's really important that if you have the time, especially while you're a bit younger, even through university you can do it. I did it during university as well, where you can get involved in your local areas. They will have mentoring programs for high school or primary school children. So I think that's one way that you can go about it.
ladies, it's been fascinating insight. I mean, if there's anything that you want to add, please say so now. But I mean, we've covered off so much. I feel like we could sit here all day, though. There's a lot to talk about, isn't there? But the sort of takeaways, I hope you agree, as speaking up when something's not right, having the allies to do that, and forging those relationships. I think so much of this is built on trust, isn't it? And then having each other's backs, you know, men and women with women. You know, the sisterhood is real. We need to help each other in that. And then having the confidence. You've talked a lot about confidence and the importance of that, and being your whole self all of the time. That is so important as well. Using gender neutral language, really important. And celebrating everything that, you know, you've done. You're sitting in this room for a reason, so thank you for that. And then, let's just keep working together to break the bias. But thank you for sharing the passion. It's great.
Thank you.
And break the bias.
Thank you.